fascinating. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I will be your host. And what do you think of this angle? How cool is this? I just kind of nestled myself into the corner. Yep, it looks really good. And it's comfortable. I feel like I'm in a jungle here. And I really am. I got everything. I got orchids. I got avocados. I got my cocoa tree here. I got a dragon tree, palms, dwarf pomegranate back here. I got all kinds of good stuff here. But I'm here to answer your questions, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to answer your gardening questions to the best of my ability. Now, let me make something clear before everybody cuts my head off. I answer the questions according to what I know and to what my position on gardening is. So if my answer doesn't jive with what you, or jive, I don't know. If it doesn't connect with what you think is right, take your own advice, okay? This is just my advice, and so take it for what it's worth. First one comes from Ebony119. How to plant apples? Oh, wait a minute, let me rephrase that. How do I plant apple seeds? Special seeds, refrigeration, cut seed open with 4 question marks. So I guess that would be cut seed open? I don't, okay, basically what Ebony wants to know is, it must have been late at night when he or she typed this. But anyway, Ebony's asking, how do you plant apple seeds? Well, I've only planted apple seeds once, and I didn't get them to sprout. So there you are. I'm an expert on not sprouting seeds, but I do know how to plant them. Yeah, it's very simple. First, you got to put them in the fridge and you got to stratify them. Stratify them means take them through a cold period so they think they're in winter, kind of full of those seeds. And then once they go through winter, it spurs them into wanting to sprout. A lot of times you'll plant an apple seed and it won't sprout. Sometimes it will, most of the times it won't. You got to take it through a cold period. As soon as that's done, take it and put it into a small cup. I did that without knocking anything over. Put it into a small cup, bury it about as deep as your little fingernail, keep it slightly moist, keep it warm, and it may take a while. It may take weeks, a month, more to sprout. They take their time, okay? They're not in a big rush. They're not out here to please you. They're out here to take care of themselves. And so they may sprout, they may not sprout. You never know with apple seeds. But that's how I would grow an apple seed, and maybe one day I will, but I really don't need to because I have an apple tree that's full grown and I don't need to plant those. But that is the way that I know. Anybody that knows a really good way, post it in the comment section below and help Ebony119. Next one, okay, this is a weird name, Technixia. Technixia, that's actually kind of a cool name. I love the names that people have here. Technixia says, hey Ray, hi Technixia, what camera do you use? Is there anything that bothers you about your camera? Is there any camera you'd rather have gotten? Oh, you know what? I should get a camera. That way I can show you. I keep talking about my camera, but I've never really shown you my camera. Hold on right there. The camera I use is the Canon FS100. It's a really cool, small, portable size camera. Like that. You hit the button, it turns on, and all you have to do, hit this button and it records. And Canon makes a good camera. Now one of the things I really like about this, and I have to be very picky because I use a wireless microphone. This little tiny thing right here, this is the audio input jack. And I need to have an audio input jack. Otherwise I'm using the microphone right off the camera. I have 2 of these, by the way. And I need to have a microphone input jack. And what's really cool is the microphone that I use with this, let me show you that. This is a wireless microphone, and it's called a Samson, not Samsung, Samson. And it's a Samson wireless microphone with a rechargeable battery, and it goes onto a base, and you just plug it onto the base, it recharges. It's the smallest and best quality that I could possibly find. I've used other types, and they are definitely lesser quality. This is very lightweight, works like a charm, and has fantastic range and a lot better quality than the one I was using. And the receiver looks just like this, only it has 2 antennae coming out. Hold on a second, maybe I can move this so that you can see it. Whoa, look at me taking everything apart. Here's the receiver. The receiver has these antennae, which is wonderful. It picks up the sound perfectly. I don't know if I'm picking up the sound because I'm moving it all over the place, but I love this wireless microphone setup. It's great. There is no drawback. There isn't. I bought a new memory card for it, so it holds a bunch, I was going to say buttload, but I didn't know if that was a cool word to say. What the heck? It holds a buttload of memory on this thing. A ton of memory. The camera is great. The battery lasts a long time. It's rechargeable. It's easy to use. You can just move your files right over on your computer, and they're editable with my editing program. I don't have any drawbacks to this, and that's why I bought a second camera. I got one, I got a second one. Anybody that wants to start out making videos on YouTube, I suggest use whatever you got. If you got a phone that does pictures, put it on a table across the room and film yourself on a phone. I used to have a really crappy one. I used a webcam back in the early days. Yeah, it was a really crappy webcam. I was all blurry and everything, but I did what I had to do. Then as I made money on YouTube and I was getting paid for making my videos, I invested that money back into equipment to make better videos and invested it into more stuff to grow, to make my channel a little bit better. And so that's what I do. And you know what? If this one ever breaks down, I'll buy another one. I don't need a better camera. This one suits me just fine, and it's dirt cheap. It only costs like $100 to $200 now. Yeah, that's actually a very cheap camera. And next one. Sharon Chapman. Hi, Sharon. I'm considering building a 4x4 raised bed garden. How do I keep gophers from getting my plants? That is a common question, and that's a common concern with gardeners, because gophers can be, you know, they're adorable, you know, if you're on Caddyshack, but they will definitely destroy your garden, and that's because they eat a lot and they burrow a lot. But one easy way to do it is you can take what's called hardware cloth, and what that is it's just a fence that has like 1/2-inch openings on it, and it comes in a roll. You can buy it by the yard at a lot of hardware stores. You go into their fencing aisle or their hardware aisle, and you can buy it by the yard, and you can get as much as you want, and you just put it onto the bottom of your raised beds. Just lay it on the ground, put your raised beds over it, put the soil in. The roots for your plants can get through that and do just fine, but the gophers can't come up through that to get anything out of your garden. That is the best way that I would know to keep gophers out. You know, I am lucky that gophers don't go for my garden. I mean, they go for everything else, but they don't go for my garden. I think it's because there's a lot of stuff to eat. So I've never really had a problem with gophers, but you know what? If I ever do, that's what I'm going to do. You can go through the pain and headache of trying to kill them, and you're going to have a really Caddyshack moment on your hands, because they are not stupid. But I just as soon keep them out of my garden and let them live. That's me. That's what I would do. Hardware cloth. That's some good stuff. Chicken wire might work too, and it's awful cheap. All right, next one is from Nick Parilla. Hi, Nick. Hey, I'm really interested in your cocoa tree, and you haven't posted any updates on it for a while. I'm trying to grow one right now, and a video of your experiences with it and how you take care of it will help a lot. Well, Nick, I post a lot of videos on my cocoa tree. From the very beginning when I planted it, I've shown many updates on the VoodooGarden channel here and on the Praxis channel, but mainly on the VoodooGarden, because this is where I do my indoor gardening. And as you can see right here, this is a cocoa tree. And over here, here's another cocoa tree. The one that's downstairs is really huge. And I've pruned that one back many times and got it to grow different directions. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that when I move, because it's looking a little bit bad. And the reason it's looking bad is stop it. The reason it's looking bad is because it's hard to keep the humidity high for cocoa trees. They are very particular when it comes to humidity. They'll grow really nice under minimal light, under really crappy conditions, but one thing they do not like is low humidity, and they will let you show it by the edges. Well, this is not happening up here because the humidity is great up here, but the edges of the leaves will turn brown, really brown, and they'll get worse and worse, and the leaf will die. That means low humidity, and that's what's happening downstairs, because it's cooler downstairs than it is up here, and I don't want to pay a fortune to keep that room hot. So it's slowly going downhill, but you never know. Spring's around the corner. It may go back up. It may go to the new house with me. It may not. But I have about, I don't know, 8 more to take its place. So I'm really not too awful attached to it. I know a lot of people are attached to that cocoa tree, but I'm not. I like my plants, but I don't bond to them for life. So if something goes wrong with them and I really can't do anything for them, it's adios, make room for something else that's going to be fun in the Voodoo Garden. That's how I am. So I will show some updates on it. I think maybe next episode I'm going to drag all this equipment downstairs. It's really a pain in the butt, but I will drag this downstairs because I want to show the pepper plants and the jasmine and the cocoa and all that fun stuff that you don't normally see up here. So I'll show it to you next week, okay? All right, next one from 09MR502. That's an odd name. I'll just call you Mr. 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 asks, would pruning a miracle fruit plant be safe? Yes, it would. Yeah, it's actually very safe, as a matter of fact. I pruned mine. Oh, let me get a prop. Hold on, prop time. I have props for everything. Yep, this is my miracle fruit, and I grew this from a seed. Like I mentioned in a previous episode, they take forever to start kicking in, and it's hard to keep them alive, but once they get going, as long as you keep that soil acidic, because I love acidic soil, and luckily for this plant I drink a lot of coffee, and coffee is what works for me. That or a little bit of vinegar in your water. Keep it acidic, keep it under bright light. They love bright light. This one doesn't like direct light, because when the light gets too bright, its leaves start dying. So keep it under bright light. And also, as for pruning, there really is no need to prune any of this because they grow in a conical shape, and it's very easy for them to hold that shape. So I've never had to prune any of this. The only thing I had to prune was from here down, because this was all the way down to the bottom of the pot, and I was kind of scared that it might get some kind of fungus, mold, or something like that. So I totally butchered everything off all the way to the main stem, because I want this to be kind of a shrub with a bottom stem, and it's working out fine. So if you want to prune it, you can prune it, but I really don't see a need. If you got a long scraggly one, if it has any kind of joints lower down, you can pinch off the top and it will put out new growth. So yeah, you wait right there. So that's as far as pruning them. If you have one that's growing outside and is growing really good, yeah, definitely prune it any way you want. For an indoor one, sorry for that. I'm going to have to edit something out. But for an indoor one, they really don't grow that fast, so I wouldn't be pruning it. Okay, next one. Cresceno. Cresceno? Yeah. Says, Ray, have you ever grown kiwi? No, I have not. I've never grown kiwi. Don't know why. Somebody is sending me starfruit seeds and somebody's sending me kiwi seeds. And people keep asking me that. Ray, can I send you kiwi seeds? Can I send you starfruit seeds? And I keep saying no. And finally, I gave in. I said, yeah, send them. I'll grow them. So, yeah, I'm going to grow it at the new house. I'm not going to grow it here. I'm not starting anything new here because, like I said, in 60 days, I got to pack all this stuff up. So the last thing I need is a whole bunch of these in the back of a U-Haul jumbling around. It's going to be hard enough moving the big plants. Can you imagine me moving a whole bunch of cups like that? No. But I will start more stuff at the new house, and I'm going to try a whole bunch of new things. As I divest myself of some of the things that I really don't like growing here, I'm going to put in new plants at the new Voodoo Garden, and that's going to probably include kiwi, a papaya. Yep, finally going to probably grow a dwarf papaya, and a couple other things. So keep tuned in for that. Next one, Casey. Hi, Casey. Casey asks, what has your experience with earthworm casings, must mean castings, earthworm casings been? I've heard good things, and I just bought some along with bone meal. Your guide has pushed me beyond, my guidance has pushed me beyond my old limits and into indoor gardening. Well, don't blame me for your addiction to indoor plants, but I'm glad that I could inspire you to grow something. As far as worm casings go, I did grow worms. Remember, I raised worms in my basement for a while? Fun experience. It was hilariously fun. I had those worms, they procreated like you would not believe. Holy cow. You just give them a little bit of food and they get together, a little bit of romantic music, and you got worms all over the place. I finally had so many of them, it was just getting a little bit too crazy to take care of them. I had layer after layer after layer, and I thought, wow, this is getting stupid. So I just dumped them all into my compost outside, and they procreated out there. Then I took compost, put it in my garden, and now they're growing in my garden. So I have all those red wigglers out in my garden. I really didn't want to do it in my house anymore. One reason is because those little gnats, not fungus gnats, but gnats, will go all over the place, and I really don't want that in my house. So outside, I guess it would be good. As far as the worm castings go, I bought some once in a big bag, and I was using it sparingly in with my potting soil. Works like a charm, and you can take a handful of worm castings, you know, once they're all done eating and it's all done, you can put that into a bucket of water, fill it up with water, and you got worm tea. Wonderful stuff, very, very mild, and it'll feed your plants. One thing I want to let everybody out there know, one of the things you don't normally hear from people that do worms is that you get out what you put in. You know what I mean? So if you feed them shredded newspaper, you're going to get crap, you know, in the way of worm castings. They're going to be low nutrients. Well, if you give them good stuff like coffee grounds, banana peels, they love watermelon. They can't get enough of that stuff. Watermelon, all kinds of other good stuff. If you give them a good, balanced, rich diet, they're going to poop out good, balanced, rich poop. And that's going to be better for your plants. So you don't get something for free. You can't feed them this and expect to get, you know, black gold. Isn't going to happen, folks. So give them everything that you want to give them except citrus. Nothing acidic. They don't like that, you know. It's, you know, when you're a big, long tube of slime, the last thing you need is acid hitting your body. No, no. So throw anything in there that you want. The stuff that comes out is going to be wonderful mixed in with your indoor plants or outdoor plants. Great for indoor plants because you don't have to worry about bugs being in it. Worm castings, good thing. Next one, Marquesa. I love that name. I don't know why. I read that name and I thought, Marquesa. You don't hear that name anymore. Does anybody have any friends named Marquesa? Nope. She asked, well, it's not really so much a question, it was a concern. She said, I saw an episode on somebody's program where they tilled in pine needles. Is that good? No. No, Marquesa, it's not. And I've gotten this concern before, and I think I know what you're talking about, and I'm not going to go too in-depth on this because it's kind of a touchy subject, but I'm going to tell you something. Everybody out there that has pine trees, and by the way, my new home, it is surrounded by pine trees, and so I'm not only going to talk about this, I'm going to demonstrate this for you because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and the thing about it is when people are teaching you things that are wrong, they should admit that they're wrong, and that way you can take their advice and correct your growing situation, because when they try to push off something that's garbage and you take their advice and your garden suffers, you're the one that they're harming. They're not helping anybody, you know, so they need to drop their pride and they need to admit when they're wrong. And what happened was, in a nutshell, a gardener last year took a whole bunch of pine needles and tilled them into the ground. Yep, a whole bunch of pine needles, tilled them into the ground. And then, I think it was a whole bunch of dead leaves, tilled them into the ground, and was promoting this as a great way to garden. And I kind of, you know, I mentioned something, wouldn't have any part of it, wouldn't listen to me, went ahead, planted the garden, and of course, garden came up like crap. You know, the corn was all looking like grandma's hair. It was just, you know, really icky and, you know, really small corn, total failure. Cucumbers, failure. Everything was just washed out because what happened, folks? Does anybody know what happens when you do this? It's very easy. Pine needles are acidic. They will lose their acidity if you compost them down because the acidity in them is compostable and it will break down and you can have fantastic compost. But when you just take them and till them into the soil, you're putting that acid right into the soil. You're lowering the acidity of your soil way down. Part two of this disaster, this train wreck as I call it, is that you're taking browns, which is pine needles and leaves, and putting them into the soil. Gardening 101. When you do that, it robs your soil of nitrogen while these break down. Not so bad if you're going to leave them in there for like, what, a couple years to break down and let the worms and the bacteria and the fungus take care of it, but not when you're going to plant a garden in it. And then when you plant a garden in it, everything comes up all anemic looking and it just looks like crap. And then you're trying to, you know, hide the fact that your garden is a failure and you're dumping fertilizer in there, but when you should have just said, you know what, I messed up. And that is a lesson to you. That could have been a lesson, but no. When somebody does that and they teach you the wrong thing, they should man up or woman up and tell you, you know what, I screwed it up. And you know, I don't preach this because of something that I believe. I preach this, you know why? Because I did it. And I did it even far worse than this other gardener. I took bales of peat moss, I took wood chips because I had a wood chipper and I just moved up north into Pine County and I had a whole bunch of trees. So I was throwing everything through the wood chipper and I had this mountain of wood chips and I had a low-lying garden. And of course I had peat bogs there too, so I was hauling peat from the peat bogs and throwing it into my garden. Fresh peat, bales of dried peat, I was throwing wood chips all into a low-lying area, which was, low-lying areas generally are acidic in that area. So what did I do? I botched that garden up and my tomato plants were like this big and they'd fall over dead. It was the worst garden in living history. But the next year, it was fantastic because all of that stuff broke down and everything balanced itself out. And I threw in some chicken manure. I was throwing in wood ashes from my wood stove and that was bringing the alkaline level up. So I was balancing out the acidity. And the girls that lived next door, they came over and they nicknamed my garden the Chia Garden because it was so huge. Even the weeds were huge. And so I did make a mistake then. I wasn't doing YouTube videos back then, but you know what? I screwed it up. And so there are people out there that just don't know what they're doing. And that's fine. If you want to bumble along and film your misadventures, that's fine. But when you promote yourself as a teacher and you're teaching stupidity, the rest of us who are trying to do things right and trying to help people, we're here to pick up that mess. And so I'm here to tell you, don't throw pine needles into your dirt. You can use it as mulch on top for acid-loving plants, or you can compost it down and then throw it in your garden. Same thing with leaves. You know, like Kim from California, she bags up her leaves and she turns it into rotted leaves and she uses it in compost. She's doing everything right and she's teaching everything right, and I love the way she does things. But there are others who just don't know what they're doing and they're bumbling along and they're really messing it up for the rest of us, and that's not a good thing. People ask me, why don't you watch other people's videos? Well, because if I see something wrong, what am I supposed to do? Just, you know, walk the other way or say, good job? That's not what I do. And if I open my mouth, people may yell at me, so I just kind of steer clear of that. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. If I'm doing something wrong, feel free to not do that, because I'm not your teacher. That's one thing that differs from me to somebody else. I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm just here to show you how I do something. And I screw a lot of things up, but I don't promote it as the definitive way or say this is what you should do. That's not my style. So anyway, I went on for a long time, didn't I? Sorry, Marquesa. No, pine needles are not good. Don't throw those into your soil. You're going to regret it. You really will. Next. Oh. I had, this isn't a question, this is from some conversations that went on in Facebook, and people send me links to a lot of videos, and they ask me, Ray, have you ever done the Back to Eden stuff? You ever done that Huggen Klatcher culture, Huggen Haagen-Dazs, and you know, that stuff where you bury the trees and the wood chips and you mound it up and you grow stuff on it? No, I don't do that. I don't practice Back to Eden. And people ask me why, and they keep trying to push me onto it, and I tell them because I don't want to. There are certain ways that we like to garden and certain ways we don't. I don't go into aquaponics. I don't go into hydroponics. I don't go into that weird German whatever it's called kind of thing. I don't go into Back to Eden. I don't do no-till gardening. I don't do any of that. And it's not because any of that is garbage. It's because I don't enjoy it. Okay? I'm not here to show every method of garden. That's not my thing. I have a certain way that I like to garden. I like to do things my way, and it works for me. And so when you tune in, you see me doing things my way. I'm not here to teach you every way. There are other channels that can do this, and other gardeners who will be more than happy to do that. There are people who are experts at aquaponics and hydroponics. Gung-ho, go for it, learn all you can learn, and that's a great thing. But I don't do that, and so people that try to get me to do that, I just kind of resist, and I'm like, you know what, leave me alone. I'm not trying to get you to grow a certain way. Don't get me to grow a certain way. And there was a guy called Mark McGrath. Ugh. Mark McGrath did a speech on TED Talks. It's this thing on YouTube. And he started out by saying everything that you know about composting is wrong. That is garbage. You know, when you tell somebody everything you know is wrong, you don't even know what they're doing, but you're telling them they're wrong, and that is very argumentative, and that's very arrogant. I don't like arrogance. I never did. And the thing that he's promoting is letting stuff, you know, decompose naturally like it does in the forest, leaves and stuff. Well, yeah, I mentioned this in a previous program. That's fine if you got, you know, a million years to wait, because it does take a while for that to break down. We do hot composting and we throw our kitchen scraps in there, and that works for us. It's not wrong. Leaf composting the natural way, that's one way of doing it. Cold composting, that's another way. Aerobic, anaerobic, those are two different ways that work perfectly fine. Even fermenting your compost, yes, that's a method as well. And it's called the Bokashi method or something like that. Works like a charm. We don't always do all of these different things, but it doesn't mean that everything's wrong in favor of this. No, that was wrong, and that's what he was basically promoting, and I didn't like that. And I don't think that people should do that. That's just my opinion. I posted my opinion. I got a little flack from it. I got some support from it. But you know what? Somebody gave me the link and they wanted me to go there. So I went there and I posted my opinion. What can you do? Another guy, Paul Gauchi, I don't know. He does a Back to Eden thing. And somebody gave me a link on Facebook. I get more links than anybody in the world. They gave me a link and they said, what do you think of this? And I went over there and I don't know the guy. Never met the guy. I watched the guy, and just my basic impression was, are you drunk? Because that's what I was seeing, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to somebody, but he had a crowd of people, I guess, and it seemed like he was being very aggressive and drunk and belligerent towards them, and he was saying, quote, nothing dies in nature. I don't care if you're at -40 degrees, nothing's going to die. Well, as a person who actually has his eyes open and lives in the real world, I disagree with that. You know, a tomato plant growing out in nature isn't going to survive -40. I don't care how well you insulate that ground. You know, you could put spray foam insulation on that ground. That plant's going to die because no amount of insulation is going to keep that temperature from killing the roots. And plus, even if they get cold, even if they get around freezing, they're going to die. The top of the plant's going to die. Things die in nature. That's just how nature works. Certain things die. But he's promoting back to Eden, and I think that's a great thing to promote a way of growing. But when you say definitive things like that, it's incendiary and it is wrong. It's a flat-out lie. You can't grow lettuce, you know, out in the real world and have it not die in the middle of winter. Same thing with warm weather crops like peppers and tomatoes and things like that. This orchid ain't going to be living in your garden in the middle of winter at -40. It isn't going to happen. So I posted my comment, and of course there was somebody else who told me that I was listening wrong, and he probably meant this, and you were listening wrong, you're biased about that. He probably meant that. And I was like, you know what? If I think the guy's intelligent enough, unless he really is drunk, to say exactly what he means. So he doesn't need you to interpret it to me. He said flat out, everything survives in nature no matter what. Nothing dies. That's flat out wrong. And I think that he could have put a disclaimer saying, as long as it's suitable for that climate, you know, but he didn't. So I took what he said as he said it. And boy, did I get beat up over that. So I don't really enjoy getting links to go check out other people's stuff like that, because I just as soon do my own thing, carry on, dance in my own little world here, and do what I do best, which is this, and not try to teach other people's methods or to get involved in their methods. If they're happy with it, that's fine. Don't involve me with this stuff, because I'm really not interested. It doesn't mean that I'm being mean. It just means I really don't care. You know, I'm happy with my garden. I'm happy with what I'm doing. And if people want to see how I do things, come on over to the Praxis channel, to the Voodoo Garden channel, or my Facebook. If you want to see somebody till in 5 mountains of pine needles, fine, go over there and party down, tear up the town, dance till dawn. That's fine too. But when you try to push something onto somebody else or teach something to somebody else and they really aren't comfortable with that, that's where we have the problems, folks. And there, I'm done preaching, and I'm going to get off my little mount. And thank you. He won't shut up. Thanks everybody for joining me in the Voodoo Garden for this Q&A. And I think I'm pretty much done. This is Ray at the Voodoo Garden. We're out of here. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.